Hello, and welcome to Marketplace with Charles, brought to you by Art of Skincare. Art of Skincare, the company that brings out the beauty in you, as well as Kuwisa Lodge, where dreams comes true, situated in the heart of Mabalingwe Nature Reserve. On Marketplace, we aim to empower, encourage, and equip you with the right tools that you need to move closer to you achieving your entrepreneurial dreams. Each week, we bring you insight from experts in different fields of business, from men and women of faith. There are 4 thorns in the flesh of many business people. The first one is how to solve the maze of legacy. As the Bible puts it, that a righteous man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Listen to this, not only to his children, but to his children's children. The second one is dealing with the heartache of labor law. Many business people, they've got challenges when it comes to labor law. Thirdly, is debt management. And lastly, which is the fourth one, is a road accident fund. We are going to discuss these 4 issues with an expert today. I believe that we're going to have a fruitful discussion with my guest because she knows these things very well. Well, without any waste of time, ma'am, last time, which was last week, we had a great episode.
Yes, Charles.
And you are back with us today.
Thank you for having me again, Charles. And good day to our viewers.
Ms. Philile Mbokazi.
Yes.
Mamruti.
You still remember.
Yes. Do you mind to introduce yourself once more to our viewers who have missed who you are? Who is Ms. Philile Mbokazi?
Okay, yes. No, I don't mind, Charles. I'm Philile Mbokazi. I'm a wife and a mother of 3. I'm a child of God. And I am an admitted attorney. I practice in my own account under the style and name of Mbokazi Attorneys. I'm based in Ivenda, which is a small township outside Secunda in Mpumalanga province.
Oh, great.
That's where I'm based, yes.
And it's my pleasure to have you on Marketplace.
Thank you for having me.
You know, to give great people like yourself, especially women who had to overcome all the odds.
Yes.
I want to believe that when I say you overcame all the odds, one, you overcame the fact that you had to move into your own business.
Yes.
You had to overcome the fact that you are black and you were historically disadvantaged.
That's true, yes.
Thirdly, you have to overcome the fact that you are a woman and you must go and play in a space which is mostly dominated by male figures.
Yeah,
that should have been challenging.
Very challenging, yes. But yeah, grace, like I said last time, grace is what makes us overcome all these challenges. That's what I believe in.
But what I know is that if you can do it,
yes,
anybody else out there can do it.
Can do it, certainly, yes.
Not underestimating or undermining your character, your integrity, your hard work, your dedication to whatever you do, your excellency that you put, you know. But I want to believe anything which any other person can do it, we are here to set up an example that, look at me, I have done it, you can also do it.
That's very true. That's very true. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. Yes.
Especially that on top of all what you're doing, you also run a church with your husband.
Yes. That's correct, yes.
Well, let us go straight to your business. Mbokazi Attorneys,
yes,
situated at Ivanda. You are also dealing with formation of trust, because I want to believe that one way of leaving a lasting legacy is to establish a trust.
Yes.
What is a trust?
Well, Charles, a trust is basically a form of estate planning where one will create a structure. A trust, I'll say, is a structure where someone's assets are basically vested on somebody else to manage for the benefit of others, which will then be the beneficiaries of that trust. So when you form a trust, you basically, you register a trust and you put all your assets in the trust, and then you appoint trustees who will then administer the trust and manage the assets and make sure that the beneficiaries that have been nominated benefit from those assets. That's the long and short of it.
I want to get this clear. We've got a trust there.
Yes.
We have got the trustees.
Yes.
And the beneficiaries.
Yes.
Let's break it down nicely.
Okay, you've got a founder.
Let's talk about the trust.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. It's the holding company. Am I correct?
I wouldn't really call it a holding company, but let's just say it's a legal entity on its own.
It's a legal entity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which has a founder who will then place his or her assets in the trust.
Yes.
And then there will be trustees who are now overseeing the trust.
And how many trustees do they have to be?
Well, there isn't really a limitation, but it definitely has to be more than one.
Okay.
Yes, it has to be more than one. And remember, as a founder as well, you can also be a trustee.
Okay.
So it can be yourself as a founder, and then you can appoint 1 or 2 or 3 trustees, as many as you would want.
Will I be correct if I say the trustees are the ones that control the trust?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
But obviously, you must remember that they don't just control the trust. There is a deed of trust, which is a document that specifies exactly what are their responsibilities and, yes, what is expected of them. So they don't just administer the trust out of their own will. They are controlled by the trust deed, the deed of trust.
And then they are beneficiaries.
They are beneficiaries, yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about the beneficiaries. Who are those?
Beneficiaries can be anyone. It can be your children. It can be a charity organization. It can be anyone, basically, that you want to benefit from the trust.
Okay.
Yes.
You spoke of a trust deed. Is it a trust deed?
It's a deed of trust, yes.
Deed of trust.
Call it trust deed, yes. It's the same thing.
Which is it's a document.
It's a document. It's like a constitution.
Yeah.
Which tells the trustees, these are your responsibilities, and this is how far you can go. This is how you can you must distribute the benefits from the trust. Yes. It will go on to state what's the name of the trust, who are the beneficiaries, when will the trust be terminated if it has to be terminated. All those things are contained in the deed of trust.
Can a trust run a business?
Yes, it can. It can. You basically have different types of trusts. You'll have your family trust, like what I've just discussed now, where parents will say, we want to put our assets in this trust for the benefits of our children. But other people will register a trust as a form of a business entity. So you have businesses that are registered as trust. Then you'll have trusts like public trusts that are looking after public interest, like your charity organizations. So you have different types of trusts.
If you look into the trust itself, some other people, they've got a tendency of taking their assets, like you said, you put them in the trust. How safe are those assets? The reason why I'm asking this is because some other people, they take the assets, put them in the trust so that nobody should touch them. Is that true?
Well, that's a misconception that most people have had, that if you want to hide anything, create a trust. But I mean, I would just say law is law. There are ways and means of finding out that finding out the intentions of creating the trust in the first place. So I really wouldn't say it's a good idea, because at the end of the day, if you are putting assets in a trust because of your wrong intentions, trying to hide assets from your creditors or from your spouse, we've had instances where people are married and then they they create trust just so that they can hide assets. There are ways and means of getting to those assets. Maybe in the past that might have worked, but as the law evolves, there are ways of being able to get to those those
So there's
assets.
absolutely nothing that you can hide in a trust.
No, you can. You can hide it until somebody finds out.
Okay. If that's so, let's go
Yes.
back to the first question.
Yes.
What are the benefits of establishing a trust?
Okay.
Because you can't hide anything.
Yes.
And in the olden days, people would use a trust to hide some stuff. Now, what are the actual benefits, as I'm sitting with you today, of having a trust, other than maybe running my business through a PTY Limited or...
Well, I think that the main benefit will be, obviously, a trust is an illegal entity on its own.
Yes.
So it has a separate personality. It's a separate personality from the owner or the founder of the trust. So when you have assets in the trust for good intentions and something happens to you in your own personal capacity, obviously those assets are protected. I'm talking about somebody now who had good intentions
Yes.
of putting their assets in the trust for the benefits of the beneficiaries. So what I think I need to mention as well is that there are two types of trust. There are trusts that are created while the person is still alive.
Yeah.
So that's where you would say, I want to put my assets, I'm still here, but I want to put my assets in the trust because I want them to be properly administered by the trustees. And then there is a trust that will only be created when you pass on. So you'll specify in your will and to say, when I pass on, I want a trust to be created where all my assets will vest in the trust for the benefits of my children. So the benefits are basically to ensure that there is continuity, whether you are still alive or you've passed on. Because we found that in most instances when somebody dies, and in most instances people don't even have wills, everything comes to a stop.
Yeah.
Because now your estate has to be administered in terms of the law. So you'll find that your beneficiaries can't really access your assets until the whole estate has been winded up. Whereas when you have a trust, it continues to operate even when you are gone.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you're saying the trust can continue to operate
Yes.
perpetually?
Yes.
It never dies?
Well, unless it's specified in a trust, the founder will specify in the deed of trust in terms of how long does they want the trust to run. Some will say until my kids are 21, then the trust will be terminated, then they are on their own. So it runs for as long as the founder wants it to run.
But why do you think it's a problem that people have? Because you find people dying without trusts, without a will, and immediately after their death, the kids, the relatives, the uncles, they start fighting for the wealth that this person has left. Like in Sotho, they will simply say, "Lefula haula mpidisa."
Yeah.
You know, in other words, your death is making me wealthy.
Yes.
You know, so people, they go and grab it and start fighting over it. And sometimes you find these businesses go under.
I think putting trust aside, I mean, a trust, maybe let me just mention, it's not just anyone that would form a trust, because obviously it counts. What is it that you're going to put in the trust? You can't just create a trust for the sake of. So if you don't have assets, then there's really no benefits for you to create a trust. But let's talk about a will, which I think is the most important document, which we still find that most people don't really want to leave wills. There's a misconception that if you leave a will and you specify that I want this asset to go to so and so, you are basically causing your children to fight, which in my understanding it's contrary to what people believe, because if there is a will, then there is no confusion after you are dead in terms of what's going to happen to your assets. So, but most people, there's also, I recently found that most people don't want to write wills because they believe that they're planning their death. They're planning for their death. So the longer you just leave it, and you'll see when you die. Which my advice to people would be, have a will.
But look, you have got 3 kids.
Yes.
You put it on a trust or in a will that your firstborn will get 70%.
Yes.
Your secondborn gets 20%.
Yes.
Your thirdborn gets only 10%. Is that not signing a death sentence for yourself?
Yeah, well, I think you know your children. You know who's more responsible than the other. So you know that if I put more assets on this one, what are the chances that my assets will be, well, it's no longer your assets, but yes, the assets will be dealt with responsibly. Because obviously, if you put a highest percentage on the one that is irresponsible, if I may put it that way, you know those assets are going to diminish within a year. So it's a decision that you need to take when you are sober. You look at your kids or whoever, for that matter, you want to leave your assets to say, I've worked so hard for these assets. So if I leave this to this person, I know that my hard work will not just go down the drain within a month or so. So
well, we've got a lot to discuss here.
Yes, yes.
And the time is against us. Well, viewers out there, we still got a lot to discuss. We are discussing 4 things today. Well, after the break, we are going to tackle the last 3. And I know we have just scratched the surface on the trust. But unfortunately, we have 3 more to discuss with this great woman after the break. Welcome back to Marketplace with Charles. I am still sitting here with my lovely guest, Philile. Philile,
Hi, Charles.
we discussed the trust.
Yes.
And I know we haven't done any justice to it.
That's very
But
true.
at least our viewers have a bit of an understanding. We need to come back on the studio and discuss specifically trust.
Yes.
But for now, I want us to scratch the surface onto the labor law, because this is something that trouble most business people. You know, when they think of the labor law, the CCMA, it's a challenge. Yes. What is your understanding of labor law when it comes to business person?
Well, there's legislation that looks at the particular area of business. We've got Labor Relations Act, and we've got Basic Conditions of Employment Act.
Those Labor Relations, LRA.
LRA, yes.
Yeah, and Basic Conditions of Employment Act. These are 2 different things.
Those are 2 different things,
okay.
Yes. But those basically deal with your day-to-day relationship between your employer and your employees. So it's very important as a business person to understand this. You cannot operate without understanding this, because otherwise you'll find yourself not complying or going against what's the provisions of those acts. So I would say you may not necessarily have a law degree, but at least if you want to employ people, get to at least understand what these two acts are saying about your relationship with your employees.
You know, sometimes when you have employed someone, it almost becomes impossible to fire them, if not extremely difficult. It's easy to employ someone in South Africa, but very difficult to fire them. As a result, I want to believe that you need to employ the best. If I have to employ the best, what is it that I should look at from my employers before I can employ them?
I think let's first deal with what we've just mentioned now, that it's difficult to fire someone. I don't necessarily believe that is true. But like I said, if you understand the law, there are ways of firing people. You don't just, there were times when you'll just say to an employee, you are fired. But people know their rights now. So as an employer, you also need to understand what your employees' rights are, and you also need to understand what are the correct procedures to follow as you deal with your employees. If it gets to a point where you have to fire an employee, there's a procedure that needs to be followed. And if you don't follow it, you are in trouble. And obviously, you need to have a reason for firing. You can't just fire because you feel like firing. So you can still fire people, but you must do it the right way.
But the right way is very difficult. Because, for instance, there should be a first written warning,
Yes.
a second written warning, and then you call for a hearing, and even if you call a person on a hearing, if they're not happy, they call a union.
Yes.
Then they go to the magistrate courts again.
Yeah.
It's taxing. That's why when you employ a person, I want to believe we need to look into something. What is that we can look at so that we don't find ourselves in this rat race? Because I want to believe when you employ the right kind of a person, when the business grows, you should also grow with these people.
Yes.
And the best way to fire people, I fire a lot myself, but the best way to fire people is to empower them.
Yes.
As a business person, if I have to fire you, I must help you get your own business. That will be the best way ever.
To fire you?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. I think the question that you've just asked, I think it's very important to know what you want when you employ someone. Know what you want. At times we have this tendency of hiring people because we pity them. You feel sorry for them. But you find at the end of the day that it doesn't really benefit you. So most importantly, know what you want, know the type of skills and experience that you need from people. If your intention is to train people, then do that. So there's a whole lot of thinking that needs to go into employing people. You don't just do it randomly, because if you do it randomly, then you'll sit with problems when you want to get rid of them now.
Is it legal to go into their Facebook page, into their social media, if I have to employ them? Like, for instance, someone comes to me, is looking for a job, and I'm sitting with his CV. But he's telling me he's a non-smoker, non-drinker, as an example. Now, I check on the Facebook. I pick him up. I see him with his colleagues smoking and drinking.
Yeah, well, so is your question, what is the question, that is it legal to fire them?
No.
Because now,
if I have to employ a person, I go into their private space,
yes,
like their social media,
okay,
before I employ them.
No,
I
there's
Google
no
them,
law
I
against
check them through the social media, because everything is on the public today.
In actual fact, that's what most employers do these days. because, and we always caution people to say, be careful what you post on your on social media, because it can actually work against you. So there is no law against that. If you want to check your prospective employees thoroughly, you are more than welcome to do that. The only thing, obviously, if you want to check their credit profiles, then you need consent from them to be able to do that, yes. But just checking their lifestyles, you can do that.
Am I allowed to fire a person who absconded from work, as an example?
Yes.
He said he asked for a family responsibility leave, there's death in the family. Then I grant that person nicely. Then the next thing, I check on the social media, I find the person, he was grooving 24/7.
Yeah. Well, yes, you can still fire that person, but there's a correct procedure that you must follow. You still need to have a proper disciplinary hearing and let them hear their side of the story. So all I can say is you can't just say you are fired. Yes.
But sometimes this law is unfair. You see someone killing another person, and we still say the person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But you have got a videotape of the person literally killing.
Charles, I wouldn't want to go to that. I really wouldn't want to go into that. But yeah, there are a lot of technicalities that work around issues like those. Yes. You can't really say because you saw someone doing it, then you punish them. You still need to hear their side of the story. That's what our law is about. Everybody must be heard. So you can't just you can't just decide that I'm guilty. I'm guilty. You know, there's a saying that say one is innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we should change it around. One is guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah. Most people will be killed before they are proven innocent. You know that.
Well, you see, we wanted to discuss 4 things. We have only scratched the surface on 2.
On 2, yes.
You still owe me a session on debt management and road accident fund.
Yes.
But in the meantime, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Okay. I'm going to leave my numbers. I've got a cell phone number, 082-835-8320. And my landline or office number is 017-634-7939. I've also got a Facebook page, which I forgot to mention last time. It's Mbokazi Attorneys Incorporated. So you'll be able to find more information on that page.
Well, viewers out there, that's all the time we had. I hope next time we'll be able to go deeper on what we have discussed today. And we'll also have and make time to discuss the road accident fund and debt management, which I know you would like to hear. We'll have to get our guests back into the studio and discuss these other 2 issues. Anyway, for now, I am Charles Ngobeni signing off on Marketplace. You can also get hold of me on charlesngobeni.com or on Instagram, Charles_Ngobeni. Or if you like, you can go into my Facebook page. You go and click like me. I would like to hear from you. Well, see you next time, same channel, and God bless you.